Good evening, I'm Haley Hollinger and welcome to Newswatch, your source for news impacting southeastern Ohio. A new health clinic is now open at Logan High School in Hocking County. The clinic's focus is on encouraging more students to get regular checkups. According to the Logan Hocking Director of Programs, Bryce Frazier, around 45% of the district's kids don't have a primary care doctor. The health clinic has 2 labs, vaccine storage, and 3 visiting rooms and is staffed by a nurse practitioner from Hocking Valley Community Hospital. The cost of the clinic was $780,000. The clinic is currently only open to staff and students. The district hopes to eventually open it to the public. The Ohio State Highway Patrol is investigating a motorcycle crash in Lauraville. The crash happened at the intersection of SR 56 and Franklin Street. Troopers say around 9:23 p.m. last night, 26-year-old Aaron Myers was traveling southeast on SR 56 when he hit a 2015 Chevrolet Equinox that failed to yield from a stop sign on Franklin Street. The Equinox then went off the side of the road and hit a house. No one was in the house was injured. Myers was transported to OSU Wexner Medical Center for serious injuries. The driver of the Equinox, 18-year-old Sean Dingus, was transported to Hocking Valley Community Hospital for minor injuries. The crash remains under investigation.
Good evening. I hope everyone is having a beautiful week this week. We've had some gorgeous weather going on, and right now it's about 74 degrees outside with some beautiful, beautiful clear skies, and it's also not too humid out. So even though we're feeling these warmer temperatures, that moisture isn't really in the air, so it's creating a lot more comfortable conditions outside as opposed to those summer muggy months. Now, over the past 24 hours, we have seen a little cloud coverage popping into Ohio here just a little bit, and that's mainly due to this low pressure and stationary front that's pulling up some moisture from the Gulf, helping to be fueled by this high pressure system, which is really sitting down in our area for now as well. And that's also helping keeping things warm since it's sort of pulling up this warm air from the Gulf, and we're really seeing that reflected around right now with Athens around 76, Lancaster around 71. Now tonight it'll be a bit on the cooler side compared to these daytime temperatures, but certainly not as cold as we saw earlier this week. We're expecting a low tonight of about 50 degrees with those mostly cloudy skies. So even though it'll be a warm night, nice night to get outside, unfortunately you won't be able to see any stars outside. Be sure to stay tuned for my full forecast, where we're going to look at a little bit of rain coming up on your weekend. Back to you, Haley.
Thanks, Emily. The 8 Akron, Ohio police officers involved in the shooting death of 25-year-old Jalen Walker after a traffic stop are back on active duty. A police captain said the return to active duty is based on an independent investigation by Ohio's Bureau of Criminal Investigation and the county grand jury's decision not to indict them. Walker had 46 gunshot wounds after being stopped for traffic and equipment violations by police officers in June of 2022. In April, a grand jury concluded their use of force was legally justified. The family released a response saying they remain strong in their commitment to seeking justice for Jalen. The family has filed a $45 million lawsuit against the city and several members of the police force. High school football playoffs are in full swing, and state lawmakers are now looking at ticket prices at the gate. A provision passed in the Ohio state budget allows people to use cash at everything from athletic events to musicals. Current online ticket prices on the Ohio High School Athletic Association's website have student tickets going for $9 and adult tickets going for $12, plus service charges. But if you plan on paying with cash at the door, whether you're a student or adult, be prepared to pay $15. House Speaker Jason Stevens wants to try and lower prices. He says students should be able to afford to watch their teams in the playoffs. The money set aside for the expansion of EdChoice vouchers to all Ohio families may not be enough. The Ohio Department of Education and Workforce says the expansion will cost the state $240 million. The expansion was passed as a provision in the state budget back in June, including students who have never attended public schools. The provision allocated just under $400 million. As of October 14th, the deadline to apply. 81,000 applications were approved for the program. That's twice the number of applications approved last year, and the state still has to go through just over 45,000 applications. Senate President Matt Huffman says he's not worried and the state has plenty of money. A controversial bill overhauling higher education in Ohio will not be receiving a vote anytime soon. Senate Bill 83 would ban most diversity training, keep faculty from striking, and require, quote, intellectual diversity on some issues at college campuses. The bill is currently sitting in the House, and Speaker Stevens says more work needs to be done before it can move out of committee. The bill has received major pushback from students, faculty, and lawmakers who say the bill will negatively impact free speech. Supporters of the bill say it will end a leftist monopoly on college campuses. Still ahead, Mike Johnson is the new House Speaker. And the United Nations warns it's almost out of fuel and may have to pull back on relief efforts.
Things are going to cool down after this weekend. Find out what this means for you and more when Newswatch returns.
Mitch McConnell insisting there's no reason for him to step down.
The powerful senator.
There's nobody who's more focused on political conquest.
An uncertain future.
Concern is growing for the 81-year-old leader.
He's a leader in a party that he doesn't really know. How long do they want him to do that?
And his legacy.
That's the big accomplishment, getting more conservative judges on the federal courts.
He had the power to do it, and so he did.
Tuesday at 10 on WOUB.
It was about dancing.
That feeling of being completely free.
It was a cultural and musical phenomenon that pulsed through the nation's dance clubs. But not everyone was a fan. One wild night at a Chicago ballpark turned into one of the strangest early flashpoints in the culture wars.
One of the saddest sights I've ever seen in a ballpark in my life.
The War on Disco on American Experience.
Monday at 9 on WOUB.
In a New York City nursing home, a group of Black and brown artists with disabilities fight COVID and the city to protect the lives of its residents.
Corona, you have me confused and confined.
Fire through dry grass on POV.
Monday at 10 on WOUB.
Why do we need to talk about race in medicine?
Why talk about race?
That's a great question. Not knowing where to start, we often choose inaction.
But we know this has to change.
It is important to call it out.
We need everyone's perspective to come together.
We turn to our friends and colleagues and ask them to tell us their stories.
This show is an invitation to settle in and listen.
Thursday at 10 on WOUB. After 3 weeks of gridlock, a swell of momentum behind Republicans' fourth pick for House Speaker, Karen Caifa is in Washington with the latest on today's vote on the House floor and whether Congress can get back to full speed.
House Republicans with a vote Wednesday on their fourth nominee to replace Kevin McCarthy as Speaker.
Today is the day that House Republicans will humbly look in our hearts and elect Mike Johnson as Speaker of the People's House.
And this time, closing the deal.
The challenge before us is great, but the time for action is now, and I will not let you down.
Late Tuesday, Louisiana Republican Mike Johnson emerged as the latest pick to wield the gavel after a wild day that saw House Majority Whip Tom Emmer win the nomination and hours later drop his bid, lacking support to win a floor vote. Johnson, an attorney with a focus on constitutional law, was first elected to the House in 2016, serving on the House Judiciary and Armed Services Committees.
Mike Johnson is a good man, and I think as you saw last night, that we are ready for a leader.
He's a tremendous congressman.
An ally of former President Donald Trump, Johnson was a key congressional figure in failed efforts to overturn the results of the 2020 presidential election. House Democratic leader Hakeem Jeffries critical of Johnson's record, but open to finding ways to work together.
All Mike Johnson will need to do is to meet us in a bipartisan way, in that fashion, and we'll be able to work together whenever and wherever possible.
Members of both parties eager to get back to work.
We need to get after the mission, and I feel excited that Mike Johnson's the guy that can bring us together and get us back focused on what we said we would do.
In Washington, I'm Karen Caifa.
Today, the United Nations warns it's on the verge of running out of fuel in the Gaza Strip, forcing it to pull back on relief efforts if fuel isn't delivered in the coming hours. The
The warning comes as hospitals in Gaza continue to struggle treating masses of wounded people with dwindling resources. Health officials say the death toll is soaring overnight. More airstrikes pound the region. The health ministry, ran by Hamas, says more than 750 residents in Gaza have died in the past 24 hours. Gaza's population of 2.3 million is quickly running out of food, water, medicine, and about 1.4 million residents have already fled the country. The largest UN organization in Gaza has been sharing its own fuel supplies so trucks can distribute aid and hospitals can keep life-saving equipment working. But that fuel will run out by tomorrow. Now the UN is deciding how to ration the limited supplies that they have left. Former President Donald Trump has to pay a $10,000 fine for violating a gag order again. The fine came after Trump's comment outside the courtroom about the judge in the case, Judge Arthur Engoron. Trump and his lawyers say his comment today was about witness Michael Cohen, not the judge. Today is day 2 of key testimony in Trump's civil trial in New York. Trump's one-time attorney and fixer Michael Cohen is a prominent witness. A key development in his testimony is Cohen's admission he lied under oath in 2018 and 2019. The New York Attorney General is seeking $250 million in damages from Trump. Drugs and depression. An off-duty Alaska Airlines pilot told investigators those were factors in an incident Sunday, where he's accused of attempting to shut off a plane's engines mid-flight. The 44-year-old off-duty Alaska Airlines pilot, Joseph Emerson, was taken into police custody after the plane was diverted to Portland, Oregon. Court records reveal Emerson told authorities he took psychedelic drugs in the form of, quote, magic mushrooms 48 hours before boarding Flight 2059. The documents show Emerson also said he'd been battling depression and hadn't slept for about 40 hours leading up to the incident. The court filings go on to read that Emerson told officials he felt like he was, quote, dreaming while riding in the cockpit's jump seat, and that by grabbing the handles of a fire suppression system, ones that shut off the fuel to the engines, he would be able to, quote, wake up. The plane's captain and first officer physically restrained Emerson, who then agreed to leave the cockpit, according to legal filings.
It's the help he needs, but I also don't think it's acceptable for a pilot to do this.
FAA records show Emerson held a first-class medical certificate, the highest level given by the administration. Emerson pleaded not guilty to dozens of state charges, including 83 counts of attempted murder. Hurricane Otis continues to remain a Category 5 storm through the night as it nears the coast of southern Mexico. Mexico's Guerrero State governor is urging citizens to find and stay in shelters over Hurricane Otis concerns. Hurricane Otis is moving inland over southern Mexico, impacting the area with damaging hurricane-force winds, life-threatening storm surge, heavy rains, and flash flooding. Rapid weakening will occur during the next 12 to 24 hours as Otis moves over the rugged terrain of southern Mexico. However, Otis remains a dangerous hurricane.
Good evening. We are inching through October, almost to the end, and we are feeling conditions that haven't felt like they did earlier this week. Right now, it's seeing about 74 degrees outside with some beautiful clear skies. Also not very humid at all as well, which is creating these really nice conditions outside to really enjoy this beautiful weather until we go back to chillier conditions. Earlier today, we saw a little bit of cloud coverage coming in from the system out to the west. It's been right along the stationary front and this low pressure system right along here. So what's going on is we have high pressure that's sort of sitting to the south of us, helping to clear some of this out of the way, but for the most part it's spinning clockwise around and helping to pull up some of this warm air that we see into the south, as well as some of this moisture feeding into the stationary front, causing some of these clouds and some of this rain to form right along this line right here. And since we're right on the edge of that system, we're just going to keep seeing the edge of it as the system continues to develop later on. And for those warm temperatures, you can really see a bit of red sort of being pulled up right here, and that's right where we're along that stationary front and right along the high pressure system. So we're going to continue to see warm temperatures in the 70s for the next couple of days as the system continues to push through Ohio and through the rest of these central states. For tonight, however, we're expecting an overnight low of 50 degrees, so not too chilly outside at all. It's going to be pretty warm outside, and unfortunately, you won't be able to see any stars since we're going to be seeing those mostly cloudy skies as those clouds continue to be pulled in overnight into the morning hours, creating cloudier conditions. And here you can really see the way that high pressure system is really just spinning up right in here. And you can see that especially to the south with the way those clouds are moving right along in there. And we won't really be seeing any rain these next couple of days coming from that system, but we will be this weekend, and I'll talk about that here in just a minute. Tomorrow, however, we'll be seeing once again those mostly cloudy skies with another warm day outside, high of 76 degrees and another overnight low of 58. Now, the reason those two temperatures are so close to each other is we have all this warm air that's sort of sitting around us now, and as those clouds move in overnight, they create this sort of insulation layer that keeps all that heat in. So we're going to continue to see these warm days and these warm nights for the next couple of days. Tomorrow, that high pressure system is going to keep hanging around. We're going to continue to see all this rain over to the west and to the north of us, and the cloud coverage is going to continue to ooze over into our area. But Friday, things are changing. We're actually looking at a cold front beginning to develop out to the west, and that's going to be pushing some rain over towards us here in Ohio coming up on this weekend. So Friday we might see a little bit of a sprinkle here and there, but for the most part it's going to be pretty clear outside. Friday, those mostly cloudy skies, and on Saturday that's when we're going to start to see our rain in the early morning and then again in the evening. And Sunday and Monday, those are going to be our heavy rain days, and that's also when we're going to see that cold front pass through. So we go from these beautiful 76-degree conditions over down into the 60s and the 50s. Back over to you, Haley.
There are new weapons this year in the fight against respiratory syncytial virus, or RSV, but healthy infants over 6 months of age may miss out on the new protection. In today's Health Minute, Mandy Gaither has more on a warning about limited supplies of some doses of the new shot and what parents need to know.
It's the leading cause of hospitalization for infants. RSV can lead to serious lung infections, even death.
The really jump for joy news is that this year we have not one, but 2 products that can potentially prevent it.
But this week, the CDC is advising there are limited supplies of some doses of nirsevimab, which can protect infants against severe RSV. In new guidance, the agency is recommending doctors reserve scarce doses for babies at highest risk, those under 6 months of age, and infants with underlying health conditions that could put them at higher risk.
The shortage thing was not something we anticipated because we had been assured there would be plenty of supply.
The CDC also recommends doctors stop using nirsevimab for babies 8 through 19 months of age who are eligible for an older protective therapy called palivizumab. It has to be given once a month through RSV season, unlike the new shot, which provides 6 months of protection after a single dose. Dr. Sean O'Leary with the American Academy of Pediatrics says there's also a maternal vaccine that can help protect against this virus.
It looks to be very safe and effective, that can be given at 32 to 36 weeks gestation. And we're not hearing about particular shortages of that one.
O'Leary says the limited supply issues will hopefully be short term.
For this year, it is a bit of a scramble and it's a challenge. And honestly, it's a bit frustrating, but we're doing our best.
For Health Minute, I'm Mandy Gaither.
The restrictions apply primarily to the 100 milligram dose of the new shot. That's a strength used for babies who weigh 11 pounds or more and are going into their first RSV season. Obamacare is getting more expensive next year, but you may be protected. The cost of the Silver Plan on the Federal Affordable Care Act exchange will increase 4% in 2024, according to a report from the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services. But most consumers should be protected from the rising costs through government subsidies. About 80% of enrollees should be able to find a plan for $10 or less a month. 2024 is also the first year insurers will have to include mental health facilities in their provider networks. The mile range of Tesla's electric vehicles may not be very accurate. The Justice Department is investigating estimates of how far Tesla models can go on a single charge. It comes after Consumer Reports found the model only went 274 miles as opposed to the stated range of 326 miles, according to Tesla. Tesla is falling well short of its advertised miles range. This can cause legal problems for the automaker.
Coming up in sports, Ohio football is looking towards the Battle of the Bricks this weekend. That story is still ahead. For the latest from Newswatch. Check us out on Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube.
From Madrid, New York City Ballet dances 3 signature works. George Balanchine's Serenade, set to the music of Tchaikovsky, followed by Balanchine's tour de force, Square Dance, and concluding with The Times Are Racing, choreographed by Justin Peck. Expect to be delighted when New York City Ballet in Madrid comes to great performances.
Friday at 9 on WOUB.
This is for you.
You got grit, I can tell you never gonna quit. No, not even for a split second. Counting all your blessings. You got personality like Christmas got his presents, and I like it. Yeah.
I always want to create something that's gonna mean something.
That's fabulous. And I like it. Yeah.
Dare me to do something.
Don't stop, honey, gotta do your thing. I like it. Don't stop, honey, gotta do your thing.
I really want to show the world how beautiful our culture is.
There was more similarities than differences.
It makes us happy. It makes us feel good.
Yeah. So spread those golden wings. We're gonna shine like the stars. Got the
It is part of our unique story. All of us together.
This is our special time.
I like it.
Salute, babe.
Honey, gotta do your thing.
We're going intergalactic.
Don't stop, honey.
We're going to make memories.
I like it.
PBS is proud to present One Voice, the songs we share. Join Maestro Luke Frazier and the American Pops Orchestra for a celebration of uniquely American music that transcends time and genre. Celebrate the music of Broadway with performances by Luke Hawkins, Amber Iman, Alexis Michelle, and more. Hosted by Jesse Mueller.
Friday at 10 on WOUB.
Welcome back, everyone. I'm Grant Kiefer with sports, and Ohio football has its most important game to date Saturday against rivals Miami of Ohio. Head coach Tim Alvin knows the significance of this one, not just at a school in this area, but what the team needs to do to improve on last week's win.
It's going to be one of our strengths. We got a lot of guys who can play. I didn't mention it.
It's fun for the fans, student section, and all the alumni is part of what Tim Alvin had said. Unfortunately, that one didn't take, but on over to the basketball side, 2 weeks from today is when basketball season starts on November 8th. Ohio basketball will take the floor for its first regular season game in the inaugural MAC versus Sun Belt Challenge against Troy. Head coach Jeff Bowles, who you just saw on your screen, seen a lot of improvement from everyone on this team this offseason, but specifically is excited about the depth his team possesses.
It's going to be one of our strengths. We got a lot of guys who can play. I didn't mention A.J. Sheldon. He's made a big jump from freshman to sophomore, one of those other guys in that mold. I think we can play a lot of guys. Depends on how the season plays out and who we're playing matchup-wise, but I think that's definitely one of our strengths.
And down at Chesapeake tomorrow afternoon, Ohio soccer faces Akron at 3 p.m. on ESPN+. They'll take the pitch at home for the final time in 2023 and maybe for the final time this season. Now, before we start talking about the postseason for the Bobcats, let's look at what's in front of them tomorrow. They face an Akron squad that's sitting dead last in the MAC standings right now, having won just 1 conference game and 3 games overall. Ohio has had its struggles recently putting the ball in the back of the net, but this Zips team's giving up the second most goals in the MAC, averaging 1.76 per game. And now for the fun part, the top 6 teams in the MAC make the tournament with the top 2 seeds getting a first-round bye. It seems complicated at first, but it's not as far-fetched as it seems. Ohio needs to win no matter what. They'll also need Buffalo to lose against Kent State and Toledo to either draw or lose at Western Michigan. The good news, though, is Kent and WMU are both ranked higher in the standings than Buffalo and Toledo, respectively. Moving over to the high school side, Athens soccer is in the district final after a massive win last night. Athens went pedal to the metal in this one, wasting no time getting on the scoreboard and never looking back, winning 6-0 against Fairland out in Logan. Up next for the Bulldogs is the district title game against Fairfield Union, which will be at Zane Trace High School on noon Saturday. WAUB's Ace Nation has been following TVC volleyball all season. The TVC Ohio champions Nelsonville York are playing in the sectional final right now against North Adams out in Waverly. NY is a 3 seed in Southeast Region 2, and they won straight sets against Piketon in their first postseason game with eyes on a Division III state title. Well, Haley, Timble's taking on Southern tonight in the volleyball playoffs. What can you tell us about that one?
Man, the Trimble-Southern rivalry is super intense, and Trimble unfortunately already lost twice to Southern in the regular season, so this should be a really good game to see who's going to go on to play South Webster. And we're going to go ahead and go into break. Coming up, a 94-year-old gets to check off another box on her bucket list. But first, here's a look at what's coming up tonight on your public television station.
Did you follow me to my house? Look, I wouldn't normally do this, but what if your daughter never got to meet your son? You should go to Long Pine Reserve. I'm looking for any public records to help me find my sister. I didn't know Dora had a sister. Do you have any sense of where she might be? I can't keep track of her. I've been looking for you.
Thursday at 9 on WOUB.
Spiritually, mentally, physically, just do your best. Never give up. Our people never gave up.
I'm building my own path and making a new path for other women.
When tribes are saying, let's get together, you do what you need to do for your people. We're more powerful together.
Tuesday at 9 on WOUB.
Straight into trouble. Way down deep, you're just a shadow as me. Had a change of heart. Had a change of heart. Sometimes the road is the best remedy.
How many more miles to Yosemite? Saturday at 10 on WOUB.
Hidden deep beneath the Cumberland Mountains in Grundy County, Tennessee, lies one of the world's most magical musical adventures, the Cavern Sessions. 3 million years in the making, Pure Acoustics offer music from the heart of the American experience, center stage and deep inside the mountain. This time welcoming Lil Smokies. It's deep down musical diversity at the Cavern Sessions.
Friday at 11 on WOUB.
Here's proof that you are never too old to fulfill a dream. A 94-year-old woman in Maine has another check on her bucket list after co-piloting a plane. Jane Lindquist's dad would take her to watch the planes take off in Owl's Head when she was younger, and since then she's always wanted to be a co-pilot. With pilot Charlie Donnelly at the helm, Lindquist boarded the plane with her grandson and Jen Donnelly, who helped grant this wish with Canco Senior Living. After the plane warmed up on this chilly October morning, the first time co-pilot buckled up and could not stop smiling.
Well, tonight's going to be a bit cloudy here in Athens for flying, but it will be another warm night. We're expecting an overnight low tonight of 50 degrees, and tomorrow's going to be a pretty similar day to today. We're still anticipating those cloudy skies, and we're looking at a high of 76 degrees, so it's going to be a bit on the warmer side of things. And again, another warm night with that low expected to be 58. Now on Friday, we may be seeing a little bit of a sprinkle of rain, but we're looking at a cold front developing out to the west that's going to be impacting us this weekend, bringing in some rain showers on Sunday and Monday and dropping those temperatures from those mid-70s that we're feeling right now down to 50s with another overnight low back into the 20s looking on Tuesday and Wednesday. So we're looking at a bit of a rainy weekend ahead of us, but overall a beautiful rest of this week.
And that does it for our broadcast this evening. Thanks for watching. For Emily Dietz and Grant Kiefer, I'm Haley Hollinger. Stay tuned for the PBS NewsHour coming up next. And remember, you can find the latest news anytime at WOUB.org or follow us on social media. Have a great night.